Last month, I took a job to renovate an old school building in a struggling small town. I was 32 and had been a carpenter for years. They promised me good money and a chance to help the town out. When I arrived, the schoolhouse was a wreck. Weeds grew wild, and the paint was peeling. The whole place felt heavy, but I figured it was just an old building. On my first night, I worked late. I was tired and ready to head home when I heard it. Laughter. Children's laughter echoed through the empty hallways. At first, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, or maybe some kids were messing around. I shrugged it off, just a small incident in an otherwise normal night. But the laughter kept coming. It haunted me every evening. I started to notice other strange occurrences. My tools were always misplaced. My hammer would be over here, my saw over there. It didn't make any sense. Something felt off. One evening, while I cleaned up, I found small footprints in the dust. They looked fresh, like a child's. My heart raced, but I told myself it was just leftovers from when the building was in use. I talked to locals, but whenever I mentioned the school, they got quiet. They exchanged worried glances, whispering about things they didn't want to tell me. They talked about the history of the place, but no one gave me clear answers. Each day, I dug around and found faded photographs in the corners of the building. The faces felt familiar, but I couldn't figure out why. As I neared the end of the renovation, my unease grew. I began to question everything. Were the noises just in my head, or was something else happening? Just thinking about it made my skin crawl. I started working faster, hoping if I finished soon, I could leave the place behind. One night, while wrapping up, I heard the laughter again. This time, it sounded closer. I stepped into the hallway, and the air got colder. It felt like icy fingers gripped my spine. I turned a corner, and there they were, figures of children. They stared at me with wide eyes. I blinked, and they vanished. My heart raced, and I stumbled back, unsure of what I had just seen. I wanted to shake it off and get back to work, but I felt eyes on me. I heard whispering and giggles as I worked. I shouted into the empty hall, demanding answers. No one replied, and I stood there frozen. Then it happened. A chilling voice whispered my name. Jake. I turned around, but there was nothing, just emptiness. I felt sick. When I finally finished the renovation, I felt like I uncovered secrets that were best left hidden. I was restoring a building, sure, but maybe I also unearthed something darker, something I would never understand. I woke up the next morning with a lingering dread. The laughter still echoed in my mind, and the children's figures were burned in my memory. I tried to shake it off, telling myself I was just exhausted. Maybe I needed to get back to the town and see if I could get more information about the school's history. As I drove to the main street, I passed the old library. It had a closed sign hanging on the door, but something pulled me inside. I found the door slightly ajar. The willows outside danced in the wind, and shadows flickered across the dusty floor. I stepped in. Inside, I noticed an old lady behind a desk, shuffling through papers. She looked up, her eyes narrowing at me. "You're the carpenter working on the school, aren't you?" she asked. "Yes," I replied, hesitating. "I've been hearing strange things." Her expression shifted to concern. "You need to be careful. That school holds memories. Some of them aren't good." "Memories?" I prodded. "Children, lost ones. Their laughter might seem innocent, but it can turn foul." Her voice trembled slightly. "They don't want to be forgotten." I felt a chill run down my spine. Her words sent my mind racing. I needed to know more. "What happened there?" But she only shook her head. "You shouldn't dig into what's better left buried." The warning hung in the air, but I couldn't walk away just yet. I asked her for any old records or photos. She reluctantly pulled a folder from beneath the desk and handed it over. I flipped through the pages and found pictures of smiling children. I recognized a familiar face from the hall. "Who's this?" I pointed to a girl with dark curls. The lady paused, then whispered, "Maggie. She was the last to play there." I frowned. Last? Her gaze turned distant. She vanished along with others. After that, the laughter never stopped. But the joy, it faded. Confusion swirled in my head. What do you mean? Maggie always loved that school. But she and her friends, they never returned home. They're stuck, you see, wandering, waiting for someone to remember them. My heart raced as reality sank in. The children's laughter, the footprints, the whispers, it was all connected. The renovation wasn't just about fixing a building. It was also about facing ghosts of the past. As I stepped outside, I caught movement in my periphery. I turned sharply but saw nothing, just trees swaying in the breeze. But I knew it wasn't over. There were more secrets to uncover, and something told me the answers would come at a cost. Would I be able to help them, or would I end up like Maggie? I felt eyes on me again. I needed to go back to the school, but this time, I wouldn't be alone. That night I prepared myself. I grabbed a flashlight and headed back to the school. I could feel the weight of the old building pressing in on me, ready to release more of its secrets. Then everything went dark. The silence was deafening when the lights cut out. I fumbled with the flashlight, its beam flickering to life just as I stumbled forward. My pulse raced. I wasn't alone. The air felt thick, charged with a strange energy. I directed my light down the long hallway. It cast shadows that wavered like living things. All around me, whispers faded in and out. A child's voice, soft yet urgent. I strained to hear, but the words eluded me. "Hello," I called out. My voice echoed back, swallowed by the darkness. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of the old woman's warning. What was lurking behind those walls? I moved toward the classroom. The door creaked open at my touch, revealing scattered desks and dust-cloaked chairs. But it wasn't the room that held my attention. It was the back wall. There, scrawled in what looked like desperate handwriting, were names. Each one circled, faded, and cracked. I aimed my flashlight, and my breath caught. One name stood out, Maggie. The others were unfamiliar, but as I read them, a heaviness settled in my chest. What had happened to these kids? Suddenly the temperature dropped. Goosebumps prickled across my skin. I stepped back, heart hammering. Was I imagining it? Or was there something in the shadows? Then I noticed something. A flicker of movement near the window. I turned only to see a silhouette darting away. I raced towards it, adrenaline pushing me forward. "Wait!" I shouted, but the figure was gone before I reached the glass. "Stay here," a voice whispered, barely audible. It sounded like a child, but there was something alarming about it. It felt almost like a command. I froze. I remembered the old woman's words. Some memories didn't want to be disturbed. I needed to leave. But before I could turn back, I felt a presence beside me, cold and unyielding. My breath caught in my throat, unable to move. I swung the flashlight around, the beam landing on a small figure, a girl with dark curls framing her pale face. She stood there, staring at me with wide, haunting eyes. "Maggie!" I barely managed to whisper. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but no sound came out. Instead, she pointed back toward the hallway, her expression desperate. There was something in her gaze that pulled at my heart. I couldn't just leave her. I stepped closer, feeling the weight of the air shift again. "What do you want me to do?" Before she could react, the floor beneath me shifted. I stumbled back, grasping for balance. The walls seemed to close in. Shadows danced closer like they were alive. Panic set in. Then I heard it. The laughter, sweet yet sinister. My blood ran cold. It was as if the whole building was mocking me. I spun around, searching for a way out. I couldn't stay here. Not with Maggie trapped in this cycle, not with whatever was lurking in the darkness. I dashed toward the exit, barely able to breathe. The laughter grew louder, more frenzied, and I slammed the door behind me, stumbling out into the cool night air. But it wasn't over. The laughter faded into whispers, echoing my name. I knew I'd have to return to understand what I had uncovered. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, and I felt a chill creep into my bones. I wasn't finished with Maggie, and she wasn't finished with me either. The next day, the air was thick with tension as I walked to the construction site. I knew it was where Maggie had once spent her days, yet I felt the weight of something otherworldly lingering in the shadows. I needed answers, even if it meant facing my fears. I arrived at the site, now quiet, the sounds of machinery replaced by a ghostly silence. As I stepped inside, a shiver went down my spine. The skeletal remains of the building seemed to watch me, their bones whispering secrets. I walked toward what would have been the classroom, heart pounding in my chest. That's when I saw it, a small wooden chair perched off to one side, untouched by dust. The sight sent chills through me. I approached slowly, feeling drawn to it. It looked ordinary, but something about the way it stood out felt wrong. I knelt down and checked underneath. There, wedged between the legs, was a tattered piece of paper. I pulled it free and unfolded it. The handwriting was childish, looped and uneven. It was a list, a scrawled compilation of names. Maggie was at the top, but the rest churned my stomach. Liam, Sarah, Ben. They were the names I had seen in the classroom. Suddenly I heard a noise, a faint thud from behind me. I whipped around, but there was no one there, just the shadows growing longer as the sun dipped lower. I felt a prickling at the back of my neck. It was getting late. I didn't want to be there when it got dark. Returning to the note, I flipped it over. A small draw on the back caught my eye, a crude depiction of a girl with dark curls. My heart raced as I traced the sketch with my finger. The resemblance was uncanny. "Maggie," I breathed, feeling a connection as the note slipped from my fingers and floated to the ground. Just then, laughter echoed through the air, bright and disarming. It was the same laughter I had heard the night before. I froze, the air thickening around me. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I couldn't abandon her, couldn't leave without finding answers. I stepped back toward the door, but slipped on something slick. My heart sank as I looked down. A puddle of something dark and red lay on the floor. Blood? No, it couldn't be. I scanned the room for what might have caused it, panic flashing through me. That's when I saw it again. The silhouette of a girl standing in the doorway. I gasped, the world around me fading as my mind screamed at me to run. But it was Maggie. I could see her clearly now, her face mirroring the hurt from last night, her eyes pleading. "Help us," she mouthed, the words silent but clear. I saw more shadows gathering behind her. I turned toward the exit, adrenaline surging. Whatever had happened here, it was far from over. The past was restless, and I was tangled in it now. Just as I reached the door, something grabbed my ankle, yanking me back. Fear coursed through me as I realized I was not leaving without confronting the truth. With my heart racing, I pulled free and dashed out, the laughter still following. The pull of Maggie's gaze stayed with me, trapped in that chilling smile. I couldn't just run. I had to go back, and I would return. I couldn't shake the image of Maggie's pleading eyes from my mind as I paced around my small apartment that night. Her voice replayed in my head, soft but urgent, echoing my own uncertainty. I felt I had to return to the site, but fear tightened its grip. What if I couldn't handle what I found? The next morning, exhausted from a night of tossing and turning, I grabbed a flashlight and headed back to the construction site. The sun barely peeked through the clouds. I was running out of time. Arriving at the site, I felt the same eerie tension in the air. The shadows looked thicker, darker. I stepped inside cautiously. The silence was a scream in my ears. I remembered the laughter, felt it lingering as if it were just outside. I tightened my grip on the flashlight, the beam cutting through the gloom. I approached the classroom. The small wooden chair still sat there, unchanged. I crouched down, determined to find more clues. The note I found before was still on the floor, but somehow I knew there was more. I scanned the room, feeling the pressure of something unseen around me. Then I noticed the wall. It was partially stripped of drywall, revealing old, peeling paint. There were markings, scratched into the wood, names, the same names from the list: Maggie, Liam, Sarah, Ben. But there was another. Eva. I didn't recognize that name. My heart raced. "Why Eva?" I whispered, tracing the marks with my fingers. It felt like a message, but I couldn't decipher it. A noise broke the silence, a soft giggle, like wind chimes in a breeze. It sent chills through me, reminding me that I was not alone. I quickly turned my flashlight in the direction of the sound, but saw nothing. My pulse quickened, dread pooling in my stomach. "Don't hide!" I called out, my voice wavering. "I want to help." Again I heard a giggle, followed by a faint whisper, "Help us." It floated around me, making it hard to tell where it was coming from. My mind raced. Help who? Was there more than one spirit trapped here? Then I saw movement from the corner of my eye. A distinct shadow flitted across the room. I aimed the flashlight, but only illuminated a broken window. The moment I turned back, the laughter intensified, echoing as if the shadows themselves were laughing at my fear. This wasn't just about Maggie anymore. There were more children here. I felt their pain, their desperation lingering in the air. I realized I wouldn't find peace until I uncovered the truth behind what had happened to them. As I stepped back, trying to collect my thoughts, the shadows morphed again. They seeped across the floor like liquid darkness. My heart raced as I stumbled over the chair, knocking it to the ground. It slammed against the floor with a loud clatter, drowning out the laughter with a sharp finality. Then it stopped. An icy silence enveloped me, wrapping around my throat like a vice. The shadows slowly receded, leaving only the name Eva etched in my mind. Something was happening here, something still unfolding. As I stood there, paralyzed by both fear and determination, I couldn't ignore the fact that I had to find out who Eva was. I had to confront the unknown. I was ready, and I was not leaving until I got answers. The cold air made me shiver as I stood in the classroom, alone with the whispers of the past. My eyes darted around, searching for any sign of Eva or the other children. My flashlight flickered, causing my heart to leap. I tightened my grip, hoping for steady illumination. The laughter had vanished, replaced by an oppressive stillness. I took a slow, deep breath. This time, I focused on the names etched on the wall. Maggie, Liam, Sarah, Ben, Eva. 5 names. I had seen 4 on the list, but Eva was a mystery. I had to know what happened to her. Just then, I noticed something shimmering by the base of the wall. I stepped closer, kneeling down to investigate. It was a small, gold bracelet, almost too delicate for this grim place. I lifted it, tracing the engraved letters, E. My heart raced. Could this have belonged to Eva? As I examined it more closely, I heard a soft scratching noise, like nails on wood. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. I lifted my flashlight, scanning the room. Nothing. "Show yourself," I called, my voice steadier than I felt. I wasn't going to let fear win. "If you need help, I'm here." A faint breeze wafted through the broken window, and I turned my gaze back to the wall. This time, however, the names seemed to shift under the light, almost alive. My heart pounded. Was it my imagination? I squinted, trying to focus. There, under the name Ava, new letters appeared, F-I-N-D-M-E. Panic surged through me. "Find you? Where?" I exclaimed, my voice echoing back to me. My mind raced. What did it mean? I hadn't been in this room long enough to understand, but I was determined. Just as I stood up, a loud crash sounded from behind me, causing me to jump. I spun around, flashlight beam trembling. The chair I had knocked over was upright again, as if someone had placed it back. My stomach turned. Then the soft giggles returned, louder this time, swirling around me like a storm. "Help us!" the voices sang in unison. I stepped back, my back pressed against the wall. I was tempted to run, but my feet wouldn't budge. Suddenly, a shadow darted past me, heading for the doorway. "Wait!" I shouted, my voice raw with urgency. Without thinking, I bolted after it, my heart hammering in my chest. I burst into the hall, but it was empty. "Please, come back!" I called, desperation clawing at my throat. Footsteps echoed from deeper inside the building. I followed the sound, pushing through the unease that gripped me. The footsteps led me to a dim hallway. I looked down. There were more faint scratches on the floor, forming a path. I knelt to see better, and my breath caught. There were more names, this time written in a child's scrawl. "Help us find Eva." I glanced back toward the classroom. The whispers seemed to merge into something clearer, more urgent. That's when I saw it. A silhouette at the end of the hallway, just beyond the light. I couldn't tell if it was a child or something else entirely. I was suddenly filled with a mix of dread and determination. "Eva," I whispered, stepping forward, my heart racing. Whatever it was, I needed to confront it, to understand. I couldn't back down now. But in that tense moment, the silhouette vanished. I was left standing in the dark, feeling a chill creep down my spine. "Do you really want to help?" a voice whispered from the shadows. I had no answers, only fear and an overwhelming sense that I had barely begun to scratch the surface. I stood frozen in the hallway, the voice lingering in the air like a taunt. My pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" I called back, refusing to let panic take hold, despite the thrill of fear that coursed through me. Silence fell again, thick and suffocating. "Do you want to help? Find Eva?" The voice pressed, more insistent now. I couldn't tell if it was coming from the shadows or if it was just my mind playing tricks. My stomach twisted at the thought. The last thing I wanted to do was get caught up in whatever had happened to these children. But there was the bracelet in my pocket. There was the urgency of the whispers. There was Eva. I couldn't leave without trying. I took a tentative step forward. The distant footsteps resumed, echoing like a heartbeat. They led me deeper into the darkness, coaxing me to follow. Each sound felt like a thread pulling me away from the safety of the classroom. I stepped cautiously into the corridor, the walls closer together, trapping me in a narrow passage. A sudden gust of wind swirled around me, sending a chill down my spine. My flashlight flickered again before stabilizing. The light danced along the walls, illuminating more names. Maggie, Liam, Sarah, Ben, Eva. Those names suddenly seemed like a countdown. "What happened to you?" I whispered, despair tightening around my throat. Then I saw it, a door slightly ajar at the end of the hallway, dark and foreboding. Shadows loomed within, almost as if beckoning me to enter. I moved closer, compelled by an unseen force, my flashlight flickering as if to signal caution. The whispers grew louder, swirling around me. "Help us! Help us!" They felt more urgent, like a plea, growing frantic. The sensation weighed heavily in the air, and I hesitated at the threshold. "Just a look," I murmured to myself. I pushed the door open, the creaking hinges slicing through the noise. A rush of stale air hit me, smelling of mildew and long-buried secrets. Inside, I quickly scanned the room. It was covered in dust, furniture overturned, scattered papers littering the floor. In the far corner, a makeshift bed lay, tangled sheets suggesting someone had once occupied it. My heart raced as I stepped forward, and that's when I noticed a series of drawings taped to the walls. Each one depicted a scene, children playing, happy faces, except the last one. It showed something dark, an ominous figure with wide, shadowy arms engulfing the children. My stomach twisted as realization gripped me. A warning? A memory? I stumbled back as the weight of dread settled over me, and then, from behind me, a soft, whimpering sound broke through the silence. I spun around, flashlight raised, and froze. There, in the shadows, a small girl stood, clutching a familiar gold bracelet in her tiny hands. "Ava?" I whispered, my breath catching. Her eyes, wide and pleading, met mine. "Help us," she echoed in a trembling voice. Everything in me screamed that this was more than I could handle, but the look on her face filled me with resolve. I had to find out what happened, to help her, to help them. A cold shiver coursed through me again. Before I could reach out, she disappeared into the dark, leaving me alone in the quiet room. "Ava, wait," I called, but there was only silence. Now uncertainty clawed at me. What lurked in the shadows? The real question lingered like an echo. How deep did this darkness go, and would I ever find the light again? I stood there, heart racing, the cold air wrapping around me like a vice. The room felt alive, the shadows shifting and twisting, mocking my fear. "This is insane," I muttered. I couldn't leave it like this. "Ava!" I shouted again, hoping she was nearby, that she could somehow hear me. But the only response was the eerie echo of my voice. With hesitant steps, I moved deeper into the room. My flashlight flickered, casting strange shapes across the walls. The more I examined the drawings, the more they disturbed me. They captured laughter and joy, but darker images lay hidden among them, twisted figures lurking behind smiling faces, hands reaching out as if to snatch away happiness. It felt like a story warning me to turn back. I approached the bed in the corner, picking up a frayed stuffed animal that rested on the floor beneath it. It was a bear, its eyes dark and sad. "What happened to you?" I whispered, feeling foolish as I stroked its matted fur. Suddenly, the floor creaked behind me. I spun around, flashlight trembling in my hand. "Is someone there?" My voice cracked, but the only reply was the sound of my heart pounding in my ears. And then I saw it, a shadow lurking just beyond the doorframe, too large to be just a child. My breath caught in my throat as I squinted into the dim light. Whatever it was, it blended with the darkness, barely discernible, but unmistakably there. I stumbled back. Just then, a loud crash echoed through the stillness, like a door slamming shut somewhere in the building. "Ava!" Panic surged through me. I had to find her. I rushed out of the room, gripping my flashlight tightly as I chased the sound. My feet hit the floor in a frantic rhythm, the air thickening with dread. I turned a corner, catching glimpses of more names etched into the walls, names that felt like lost souls calling out for help. The hallway stretched endlessly, and I felt disoriented. I had no idea where this darkness would lead me. "Get it together," I whispered, my voice trembling. I had to stay focused. But what if Eva was out there, trapped? What if those shadows weren't just figments of my imagination? I couldn't shake the feeling that they were alive and watching from every corner. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of something glinting on the floor, a small golden object that matched the bracelet Eva held. I knelt to pick it up, my hands shaking. As soon as it touched my palm, a jolt ran through me, like an electric current, and that's when I heard it, a faint whisper, clearer than before. "Help us." My heart dropped. The voices of the children grew stronger, and I could see their faces in my mind. They spoke of fear, of something dark that rose to take them. Their stories spilled out, haunting me, entwining my fate with theirs. Suddenly, the shadow moved closer, revealing features that didn't belong to a child at all. It loomed, shifting into a figure that made my skin crawl. I turned to run, but the hallway felt like it was closing in on me. I could hear footsteps now, hurried and heavy, approaching from behind. My breath quickened as I sprinted toward the exit, desperate to escape the suffocating darkness. A frantic question echoed in my mind. How many others were trapped in this nightmare? Just as I reached the door, something cold brushed against my back. I didn't dare look, but instead burst through the doorway, slipping into the unknown, hoping I hadn't just stepped into something far worse. I stumbled into the open air, gasping as the brightness of the moon momentarily blinded me. For a moment, I was disoriented, consumed by relief that I had escaped the suffocating darkness. But the sounds of the night quickly shattered that comfort. The chill on my skin reminded me that I wasn't safe yet. "Ava!" I yelled again, my voice cracking under the weight of desperation. I listened, my heart pounding in my chest, the silence wrapping around me like a shroud. The outside of the building looked different from what I had imagined. What should have been a quaint, quiet structure had twisted into a grotesque shell under the moonlight. The windows were dark, uninviting, like empty eyes gazing into the night. I fought the urge to turn back, to re-enter the darkness I had just escaped. I took a step down the cracked pathway. My flashlight flickered in the distance, revealing something ahead. It was a playground, rusty and forgotten, its swings creaking softly with a wind I could hardly feel. "Ava!" I called, hoping she might be there. Then I heard it, a faint sound like a child's giggle wafting through the air. It felt wrong, out of place, sending an icy shiver down my spine. I approached the swings, my pulse quickening. They moved gently, as if pushed by invisible hands. "Is anyone there?" I whispered, feeling foolish. "Eva?" Silence enveloped me again, thicker this time, and the giggle faded. I stepped closer to the swings, my breath hitching. Just then, I spotted a small blue shoe peeking out from beneath the slide. Hope surged in me. Maybe I would find her. But as I crouched down to reach for it, I noticed something etched into the wood of the slide. Names. Names I had seen before inside the building. All the children's names. Anxiety gripped me. I pulled my hand back, feeling the eyes of the past on me. "Help us." The whisper echoed again, this time louder, wrapping around my head like a twisted knot. The lights of my flashlight flickered one last time before plunging me into darkness. My breath hitched in fear. The playground was no longer still. Shadows began to shift along the ground, swirling and gathering in a flurry. I turned around, ready to bolt back to the building, when something caught my eye. A figure outlined against the horizon, just at the edge of the playground. "Ava!" I shouted again, my voice hoarse and desperate. The figure turned, and it was like looking into a warped mirror. It wore a familiar gold bracelet, its hair glinting silver under the moonlight. Heart racing, I called out again, "Ava!" The shape lifted its hand, and I felt a pull, as if gravity shifted. I took one tentative step forward when a loud laugh erupted from the shadows, a cacophony that enveloped me. Terror spiked through me as the figures began to emerge from the darkness, their faces twisted in expressions of glee and malice. I was surrounded. Panic clawed at my chest. I had to find a way out. Just then, a voice, louder than the others, rose above the chaos. "Help us!" My heart sank. I looked back toward the figure that resembled Eva, but she was already slipping away, deeper into the murky playground, vanishing like smoke. I turned and ran, but the laughter pursued me, echoing through the night as the darkness closed in around me. I bolted toward the school, panic coursing through my veins. The laughter followed, taunting me, as if the spirits of the children were mocking my fear. The path beneath my feet seemed to twist, stretching farther away from the safety of the building. I couldn't let them catch me. I had to escape. My heart raced as I reached the doorway, almost tripping over my own feet as I rushed inside. The air was heavier now, the walls closing in as I pressed the door shut behind me. I stumbled into the hallway with no clear plan, just the desperate urge to find answers, and to find Ava. "Where are you?" I shouted into the darkness, my voice trembling along with my grip on the flashlight. The gloom deepened, each faint beam revealing more names etched into the walls. Maggie, Liam, Sarah, Ben, Eva, all of them together, bound by a shared fate. I remembered the chilling message, "Help us find Eva," and knew I wasn't just searching for one child. I was searching for the truth about all of them. Panting, I moved deeper, following the echoes of that haunting laughter. It morphed into whispers, intertwining with my thoughts, pulling me toward a corner I hadn't yet approached. Shadows flickered and coiled, seeming almost alive as I stepped cautiously toward what appeared to be a small, forgotten room, one I had missed earlier in my panic. As I opened the door, the latch creaked and groaned. The light from my flashlight revealed dust-covered furnishings, a small chair, an old desk, and scattered papers. But on the far wall, my breath caught. A large mural painted in fading colors depicted the playground outside, joyful children playing under the sun. Yet in one corner of the painting, shadows crept, dark tendrils wrapping around their feet. "Help us," the voices echoed again, clearer now. They felt urgent, insistent. I reached out, feeling drawn to the mural, my heart pounding. This was it. This was the connection. Suddenly, I recognized the face of a girl in the mural. Dark curls. "Eva," I whispered, my fingers brushing the paint. "This is about you, isn't it?" A gust of wind whipped through the room, chilling me to the bone, and the walls seemed to pulse, alive with energy. My flashlight flickered, the brightness waning, as if the very air was becoming electrified. An overwhelming sense of dread wrapped around me, but I pressed on. Desperately, I searched the other papers scattered on the desk. Among the drawings was a crumpled note. I unfolded it and read it aloud. "We want to play again. We want to be free. Help us remember." The urgency in those words resonated in my chest. This wasn't just about Eva. It was about all of them, trapped in the echoes of their childhood. Without thinking, I called to them. "I want to help you, I promise." The darkness around me thickened, swirling like black smoke. The laughter transformed into cries, hauntingly echoing in my ears. I felt dizzy, disoriented. "Show me what happened!" I shouted, feeling the energy shift, the atmosphere crackle around me. I staggered back, the mural appearing to warp, the figures of children twisting into shapes of anguish. Their laughter turned to wails, filling the room with a cacophony of panic. Shadows tightened around me. I could feel them pulling, dragging me under. And then everything went dark. The silence was deafening. I blinked, my heart racing. I found myself back in the hallway, gasping in shock. The laughter faded, replaced by silence. I stumbled forward, glancing around. Nothing remained of the chaos, but I could still feel the weight of their eyes upon me, lingering in the shadows. I staggered to where the names were scrawled into the walls. It was the same message repeated, but this time, underneath each name, I saw a date. Every date marking a lost childhood. They had vanished one by one, leaving behind only an echo of who they once were. I stood frozen, heart heavy. I had faced the darkness, but the questions still circled my mind. What happened to them? How could I help restore their memory? I moved toward the door, the sense of urgency still buzzing in my veins. Just outside, the moon cast a silver glow over the playground. I pulled myself together, knowing I couldn't just leave. This wasn't over. Clutching the bracelet I had found, I stepped outside. The air felt lighter, but I knew the real work had just begun. I could still hear their whispers hanging in the air as I made my way back to the playground, a sense of resolve settling in my chest. That night, a part of me knew I would have to return. After all, the laughter of those children would always call me back. I'd begun uncovering their truth, but I was still just a carpenter, and their story wasn't finished yet. I breathed deeply, the echoes of the past filling my mind with questions as I looked into the shadows. "Eva," I murmured softly into the night, "I promise I won't forget." And even though the mystery remained, what was real and what was only a spirit's whisper, I steeled myself, knowing that in some way this journey was only beginning.